zone. It has been such a long time, and I hope you forgive me for such a long absence. Of course, I've been absent also from my other podcasts because of some recent events, some good, some not so good. This past weekend, I celebrated a family reunion with my wife's family. Had us a good time. But also prior to that, passing of a legend who basically shaped my playing style when it comes to the saxophone. The loss of David Sanborn, one of my favorite sax players. And I admit it did kind of hit a little bit differently. And I know this is a sports talk podcast, but these are just some things that's been going on and trying to wrap my head around it. Then over the weekend, a lady that was also influential in my upbringing, because when I grew up, it took a village to raise a child. And I grew up the son of a pastor at that. So everybody knew my dad, and the neighbor across the street knew that they had permission to discipline me thusly. Whatever means it took to discipline me, they had the permission of my parents. I know we live in a different culture today, different society, and I'll just go ahead and bluntly say it, lack of discipline the way we grew up. I wish some of today's children grew up the way we grew up. I believe they would be better children. That's my take. But to the Jones family, you're still in my prayers. The loss of Mother Shirley Jones is a great loss. She's one of the last few remaining part of my upbringing. I'm still close with the family. I feel like I have a host of brothers and sisters from that family. We grew up down on Spruce. To those of you who are listening in the Wichita area, y'all know where the 700 block on Spruce is. That was a grave loss, personally. And then we get to the news that on Monday, a long battle with cancer. Bill Walton. And I can honestly admit I was not a big Bill Walton fan. I wasn't a fan of the Portland Trail Blazers. I definitely wasn't a fan of the Boston Celtics. Two teams that he played for. But it doesn't take away what he accomplished. He helped the Celtics win a championship ring. I also believe he helped the Portland Trail Blazers win a ring as well, too. And I definitely didn't like Portland because they were beating two of my teams when it came down to it. One was the Seattle Supersonics, and I was a Philadelphia 76er fan, in particular Daryl Dawkins. And you can't forget Dr. J. Julius Irving, Mo Cheeks. And of course, when you look at those Seattle teams, they had players like Dennis Johnson, Johnny Johnson, downtown Freddie Brown. I mean, they were beating teams that I liked. And Bill Walton was a part of that. So I had a disdain for Portland, and I never really was a Boston fan. And those are two teams that he played for. And we're going to get into the Bill Walton death. But right now we're in the midst of playoffs. And there's a story that caught my attention because right now media members are calling out a particular ref. I know, what a way to start a podcast talking about refs. That's because I want to bring this up and then get this out the way. Because there are plenty of NBA refs who hear about it from fans and players during the game when there's a call they don't like. The media that covers the NBA, including those calling the games, have also stopped holding back when it comes to certain refs and the ways they call games. That's especially true for Tony Brothers. The longtime NBA ref has officiated over 1,700 regular season games, 186 playoff games, and 16 NBA Finals games. so he knows a thing or two about calling basketball games. However, he's also developed a reputation, rightly or wrongly, for taking over games and making things about him. I wonder what Fred VanVleet would say about him. Never mind, I'm not going to repeat the words that Fred VanVleet has already said about referees. That's certainly what some members of the NBA were thinking Sunday night at certain moments during Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and Minnesota Timberwolves. A week after brothers pissed off Mavericks and Thunder fans for calls in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals, he was doing the same on Sunday after calling a technical foul on Minnesota's Kyle Anderson. TNT sports analyst Stan Van Gundy had to call out brothers over the way he was taking over the game. He said, both ways, it looks like Tony Brothers wants a battle here tonight. And referees can never be like that. They're supposed to de-escalate situations. Stan Van Gundy. And I believe I also have, to the best of my ability, some audio from this.
With the technical, Irving the free throw line for the Dallas Mavericks.
I mean, both ways, it looks like Tony Brothers wants a battle here tonight. And referees can never be like that. They're supposed to be de-escalating situations. There's no talking to Tony Brothers tonight, guys. You might as well just be
scared to go. Look over here at you and I, Coach.
I hope he didn't hear that. He should.
So, yeah, that's what we got on that situation. So it says, once again, both ways, looks like Tony Brothers wants a battle here tonight. And referees can never be like that. They're supposed to de-escalate situations, said Van Gundy. There's no talking to Tony Brothers tonight, guys. I'm scared he's going to look over at you and I, Coach, added analyst Reggie Miller. I hope he didn't hear that, responded Van Gundy. Meanwhile, ESPN NBA analyst Kendrick Perkins was a bit more, whatever this word is, succinct and straightforward with what he thought needed to happen. Man, get Tony Brothers out of here, man. This ain't about you. You better believe there's going to be some strong opinions about Brothers during Monday morning's debate shows, especially if he ends up doing something that impacts the outcome of the game. So, what do you think about these officials taking over these games and making it about them, putting the spotlight on them? Because we know that happens. It happens more often than not. And they look like they do it with their own little personal swagger. We heard what Fred VanVleet said a couple of years ago. And he went on a tirade to the point where he said, guess what? I'll take the fine. And why is it that referees who can take over games and make it about them, why come they can't be called out in the media? Why are referees so protected? I don't get it. Players can critique each other. Coaches can critique each other. I mean, they can call each other out in the public. But if you call a referee out, you get fined for it. Do I think it's fair? Hell no, I don't think it's fair. I think something needs to be done about it. And I know someone listening to this podcast, they're going to say, dude, no, do nothing. If a referee is going to be man enough to make the game about himself and has a way of impacting the game, then he should also be called out in the media by players and coaches alike. Bottom line, I don't care if you agree or disagree. I darn sure don't care if you disagree. If you agree, hey, high five, bro. High five, sis. The game should not be about the referees. As Fred VanVleet said a couple of years ago, nobody paid to come see you guys. Bottom line. You are not a bunch of WWE officials where you can put on a striped shirt and if someone pushes you the wrong way, you can punch them. No, this is not the WWE. This is NBA basketball. Ref the game the way the game is supposed to be ref. We got rid of the Donahue's or whatever his name is. You remember the guy that was placing bets, getting paid? I personally believe that all of his kind has not died. There are still some that are impacting the game and their pockets is getting fat and nobody is calling them out. Maybe that's why come we don't call them out in the media, because we might find out something else about them on the side. Could it be that officials are still impacting the game because it's lying in their pockets? Yes, I said it. No, I'm not going to take it back. Why should I? The only difference is one got caught. And I'm pretty sure if he was to speak up, he would tell us, guess what? There's still some more in the league that's doing the same thing. Only difference is he got caught and they have yet to get caught. So I'll say it again. If a referee is man enough to make the game about himself and he wants the spotlight, then he should be able to be called out in the media by players and coaches alike without there being any repercussion. Why? Because you put yourself in that position. A referee, to me, is like a woman. And I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash when I say this, because we've been taught that men should never hit women. But there is that exception, that unwritten rule. If a woman puts herself in the position of a man, then she has to be dealt with. Same with an official. If you want to put the limelight and spotlight on you, then you should be fair game and be called out in the media. Do I seem like I'm fired up? You darn right I'm fired up. I'm like Fred Van Vliet fired up. Only difference is I'm not going to use the same language that Fred Van Vliet used. It's bad enough I said hell. And I had to refrain from saying some other words. But anyway, we're going to calm this thing down a little bit. We're going to tame this thing down a little bit right after I take this break. After this break, we're going to tame things down a little bit. We're going to pay homage to one Bill Walton because he deserves it. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of his, but it doesn't take away his accomplishments. So after this break, we're going to come back and talk about Bill Walton and the impact that he made in the NBA. Right here on In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Be right back. Welcome back to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. I know that first segment I got a little bit animated. Of course, when you talk about refs and officials, and I could call his name, Tony Brothers, that's his name. That's his name. Call that man's name. Because you might see him in the finals, and he might have an impact on the outcome of the series. Call his name. Call him out. If they want to, they can come after me too. I ain't scared. Anyway, I said I was going to tame it down this segment, and I am going to do just that. Because we got the news yesterday that Bill Walton, NBA champion and basketball Hall of Famer, dies at the age of 71 years old. This report actually came off of local media, KWCH news feed, Associated Press. Bill Walton was never afraid to be himself. Larger than life, only in part because of his nearly 7-foot frame. Walton was a 2-time NCAA champion at UCLA, a two-time champion in the NBA, a Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, an on-court icon in every sense of the word, and off the court, Walton was a chronic fun seeker, a broadcaster who adhered to no conventional norms and took great joy in that. A man with a deeply serious side about the causes that mattered most to him. Bill Walton, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said, was truly one of a kind. Walton died Monday at the age of 71 after a prolonged fight with cancer, the league announced on behalf of his family. He was the NBA's MVP in the 1977-78 season, the league's Sixth Man of the Year award in 1985-86, and a member of the league's 50th anniversary and 75th anniversary teams. That followed a college career in which he blossomed while playing under Coach John Wooden at UCLA, becoming a three-time National Player of the Year. I'm sad today hearing that my compadre and one of the sports world's most beloved champions and characters has passed away, Julius Dr. J. Irving, a fellow Hall of Famer, wrote on social media. Bill Walton enjoyed life in every way. To compete against him and to work with him was a blessing in my life. Tributes immediately began pouring in, and the NBA held a moment of silence to commemorate Walton's life before Game 4 of the Boston Celtics Indiana Pacers matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals on Monday night. Walton, who entered the Hall of Fame in 1993, was one of the game's most celebrated figures. His NBA career, disrupted by chronic foot injuries, lasted only 468 games, combined with the Portland Trail Blazers and the San Diego Los Angeles Clippers and the Celtics. He averaged 13.3 points and 10.5 rebounds in those games. Neither of those numbers exactly record-setting. Still, his impact on the game was massive. I love him as a friend and as a teammate, Celtics legend Larry Bird said. It was a thrill for me to play with my childhood idol, and together we earned an NBA championship in 1986. He is one of the greatest ever to play the game. I am sure that all of my teammates are as grateful as I am that we were able to know Bill. He was such a joy to know, and he will be sorely missed. Walton's most famous game was the 1973 NCAA title game, UCLA against Memphis. Of course, at that time they were known as Memphis State University, I do believe, in which he shot 21 for 22 from the field and led the Bruins to another national championship. One of my goals said, "Let's try something else," Wooden told the Associated Press in 2008 for a 35th anniversary retrospective of that game. Wooden's response during the timeout: "Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it." They kept giving the ball to Walton, and he kept delivering in a performance for the ages. It's very hard to put into words what he has meant to UCLA's program, as well as his tremendous impact on college basketball, UCLA coach Mick Cronin said Monday. Beyond his remarkable accomplishments as a player, it's his relentless energy, enthusiasm for the game, and unwavering candor that has been the hallmarks of his larger-than-life personality. It's hard to imagine a season in Pauley Pavilion without him. When Walton retired from the NBA, he turned to broadcasting, something he never thought he could be good at, and an avenue he sometimes wondered would be possible for him because he had a pronounced stutter at times in his life. Turns out he was excellent at broadcasting. Walton was an Emmy winner, eventually was named one of the top 50 sports broadcasters of all time by the American Sportscasters Association, and even appeared on the New York Times bestseller list for his memoir, Back from the Dead. It told the story of a debilitating back injury suffered in 2008, one that left him considering taking his own life because of the constant pain and how he spent years recovering. I lived most of my life by myself, but as soon as I got on the court, I was fine, Walton told the Oregonian newspaper for a story published in 2017. But in life, being so self-conscious, red hair, big nose, freckles, and goofy, nerdy-looking face, and can't talk at all, I was incredibly shy and never said a word. Then, when I was 28, I learned how to speak. It's become my greatest accomplishment of my life and everybody else's biggest nightmare. The last part of that was that Walton hype. The last part of what was just Walton hyperbole. He was known for his on-air tangents and sometimes appeared on air in Grateful Dead t-shirts. Walton was a huge fan of the band and referenced it often, even sometimes recording satellite radio specials celebrating what it meant to be a deadhead. And the Pac-12 conference, which has basically evaporated in many ways now because of college realignment, was another of his many loves. He also referred to it as the Conference of Champions and sang its praise all the way to the end, literally. It doesn't get any better than this. He once said on a broadcast, tie-dye t-shirt, a Hawaiian lee around his neck. Walton was involved in the broadcast of college and NBA games for CBS, NBC, and ABC, ESPN in his career, along with stints working for the Clippers and Sacramento Kings. As an analyst, he returned to ESPN and the Pac-12 network, further touting the roots of his league in 2012. Bill Walton was a legendary player and a singular personality who genuinely cherished every experience throughout the journey of his extraordinary life, ESPN chairman Jim Pitaro said. Bill often described himself as the luckiest guy in the world. Anyone who had the opportunity to interact with Bill was the lucky one. He was a truly special, giving person who always made time for others. Bill's one-of-a-kind spirit captivated and inspired audiences during his second career as a successful broadcaster. But Bill Walton will always be synonymous with UCLA's dominance. He enrolled at the school in 1970 before freshmen could play on the varsity team. Once he could play for Wooden, the Bruins were unbeatable for more than 2 years. Walton's UCLA teams won their first 73 games, the bulk of the Bruins' extraordinary 88-game winning streak. It was snapped against Notre Dame in 1974, a 71-70 loss in which Walton shot 12 for 14 from the field. Bill Walton's passing is a sad tragedy, one of the great ones in UCLA basketball history, Digger Phelps, who coached that Notre Dame team, posted Monday on social media. We were great friends over the years. It won't be the same without him. UCLA went 30-0 in each of Walton's first 2 seasons and 86-4 in his career on the varsity team. My teammates made me a much better basketball player than I could ever have become myself, Walton said at his Hall of Fame speech in 1993. The concept of team has always been the most intriguing aspect of basketball to me. If I had been interested in individual success or an individual sport, I would have taken up tennis or golf. Walton led the Portland Trail Blazers to the 1977 NBA title, then got his second championship with Boston in 1986. Bill Walton was an icon, said Jody Allen, the chair of the Trail Blazers. His leadership and tenacity on the court were key to bringing a championship to our fans and defined one of the most magical moments in the franchise history. We will always treasure what he brought to our community and the sport of basketball. The Celtics released a statement saying Bill Walton was one of the most consequential players of his era. Walton could do it all, possessing great timing, complete vision of the floor, excellent fundamentals, and was one of the great passing big men in league history. Walton considered himself fortunate to have been guided by two of the game's greatest minds in Wooden and Celtics patriarch Red Auerbach. Thank you, John, and thank you, Red, for making my life what it has been, Walton said in his Hall of Fame speech. Walton was the number one pick by Portland in 1974 draft. He said Bill Russell was his favorite player and referred to Bird as the toughest and best he played with. So it was appropriate that his playing career ended as a member of the Celtics. Playing basketball with Larry Bird, Walton once said, it's like singing with Jerry Garcia, referencing the co-founder of the Grateful Dead. In his final years, Walton spoke out about issues that mattered most to him, such as the problem of homelessness in his native San Diego, urging city leaders to take action and create shelter space to help those in need. What I remember most about him was his zest for life, Silver said in a statement. He was a regular presence at league events, always upbeat, smiling ear to ear, and looking to share his wisdom and warmth. I treasured our close friendship, envied his boundless energy, and admired the time he took with every person he encountered. Walton died surrounded by his loved ones. His family said he is survived by his wife Lori and sons Adam, Nate, Chris, and Luke, a NBA championship winning player and now a coach. Said Pacers coach Rick Carlisle, who was teammates with Walton in Boston. He definitely competed for every moment in life to be the greatest he could possibly be. I know that was kind of lengthy, but it was due to a man worthy of all the accolades and all the comments that was left by well-wishers. So, Bill Walton, you made your impact on life, on the basketball court and off the court, and you will be missed by many. Like I said, I was not the biggest fan, but it doesn't take away what he gave to the game of basketball and what he gave to the game of life. That is Bill Walton. So, that being said, now what I'm going to do, I am going to take another break. Hope you are enjoying being in the zone. Like I said, it has been a while, but as you can tell, I'm coming back strong. So, stay locked in the zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. I will be back after another commercial break. Welcome back to In the Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. It is Tuesday afternoon. Like I said, it has been a while since I've been in here, but as you can see, when I come back strong, and I'm packing a punch. Because now what I want to do, first segment we looked at, officials need to be called out. And I'm not going to get back in there because it'll get my blood boiling. Second segment, we pretty much gave a tribute to Bill Walton. Look at his accomplishments, his playing career, what he did on the court, what he did off the court. I mean, the man is worthy of all the compliments and praise that he received and all the well wishes, well deserved. Like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of Bill Walton. But like I say, me not being the biggest fan does not take away his accomplishments on the court. It doesn't take away his 2 championships that he won. It doesn't take away the fact that he's impacted people's lives in ways that they could even hardly describe how he impacted their lives. His infectious smile, his enthusiasm for life, his enthusiasm for a cause, bringing attention to the homelessness situation in his home state in San Diego, California. So, Bill Walton, I wasn't your biggest fan, but rest in peace. And to his fans, y'all have the right to have this moment. Hey, like I said at the beginning of the show, I had me a little moment when my favorite saxophone legend, David Sanborn, passed away, which has made me pull my horn out even more. And the fact that I know I'm going to have to play my saxophone again at a homegoing service of a woman that was dear to me. So those of you who are mourning the loss of Bill Walton, you mourn it the way you want to mourn it. And remember the good times. I mean, at the end of the day, those of us who have lost loved ones, family members, people close to us, or someone we just attached ourselves to, you have a right to mourn. Know that one day you will be comforted, that your tear-stained eyes will be dried. So, once again, rest in peace, Bill Walton. I ain't going to tell that. I was going to say I didn't mean to get off on that particular soapbox, but yes, I did. Because at the end of the day, everybody needs to be comforted in one way or another. So, rest in peace, Bill Walton, and to his fans, to his friends, and whatnot. Remember this: weeping may endure for a night, but you will have joy in the morning. So we want to move things around a little bit here because when you look at the game of basketball, the first thing you notice, whether it be at the high school level, the college level, the professional level, you see more people of color than you see people that are not of color. However, when you see a person that's not of color with some skills, how do you look at that person? Do you look at that person based off of his skills and how well he plays? Or are you looking at him based on his skin color? Because this article right here that I'm about to share with you just may sum up the hype and hoopla around Caitlin Clark. Rex Chapman admits that good white players were getting a lot more attention than great black players. In this world, there are no aspiring athletes, or you can count them on one hand, who do not enjoy media attention and the popularity that comes with it. However, when that popularity is not based on the values for which the player has tirelessly worked day and night, but rather on something outside the domain of the sport, it loses its meaning. For the NBA player Rex Chapman, for the former NBA player Rex Chapman, this happened when he started playing collegiate basketball at the University of Kentucky. The limelight was on him partly because of his basketball skills, but mostly, as Rex himself admits, it was due to his race. If you were a really good player in college, or maybe just good, and you go into college early, and you play, and you do well, like me, I was on every cover of every magazine as a freshman and sophomore, and Danny Manning and David Robinson were easily the best players in the country at that time, Chapman said in his appearance on Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast. What are we talking about? I get it. I'm good. But I'm not them. Chapman felt he wasn't the best player on his team. As his nickname suggests, the Boy Wonder was the perfect example of a cover story athlete at the time. The Caucasian 6'4" guard who had nice hops and could light it up from the moment he stepped past the half court line quickly became a fan favorite. However, Chapman believes that this attention was undeserved, at least in such large amounts. Far from being a poor player, Rex was excellent in his freshman season. He averaged 16 points, 3.6 assists, 2.3 rebounds in 33.2 minutes per game, starting in 28 of 29 games. Additionally, he was selected to the SEC Southeastern Conference All-Freshman team, and during his 2 seasons at Kentucky, he was twice All-SEC and once NCAA All-Region selectee. However, he didn't think of himself as the best player on his team, let alone in the country. I had other black teammates who I idolized at the time I was in Kentucky, and I never thought I was our best player. I thought Ed Davender was our best player by a lot. I'm getting all these accolades, and my eruption at starting lineup, the nines louder, the minds louder than anyone else's, he added. Rex was trash talking MJ. If another player was calling out Rex, one might think it was out of jealousy. But given that it is a first-hand admission, it carries significant weight. It's hard to say if this has happened on more occasions throughout history, whether intentionally or accidentally. But one thing is certain. The boy wonder left behind a solid NCAA and NBA career playing for 4 franchises. Although he experienced a media push at the beginning of his professional journey, his title as the only guy to torch Michael Jordan while trash talking him cannot be taken away from him. So, is what Rex Chapman said actually true? Because now, that's going to lead into another story that I'm looking at right now as we speak. WNBA coaches says greatness of black and brown people not celebrated as much as those who are white. Several days ago, Las Vegas Aces head coach Becky Hammon implored the media to back off any notion that WNBA veterans dislike Caitlin Clark. We love Caitlin Clark. I think she's amazing. I watch every time I possibly could. Our league loves her, Hammon began. She then took a swipe at a race narrative. Her own star player in Asia Wilson said that race was a huge thing in Caitlin's popularity. Even the black and white thing, knock it off. It's not there. It's not there. So shut down the noise. In black and white, what is the 22? She's a 22-year-old woman with a lot of pressure. She's not perfect. She's a rookie in this league. Back off, Hammon said. Many took that as a swipe at Wilson, who had actually been standing next to Hammon during that plea. Hammon was asked about those comments, with the reporter saying it had been misconstrued a couple of times. It's construed as some of our minority black and brown women are hating on her because she's white, and that is not the case. Let's take Caitlin out of the picture. What I think is upsetting is not about Caitlin. Give her flowers. She's done stuff that no man or woman, black or white, has ever done in college basketball. Give that woman her flowers, Hammon said. But what it does is it has highlighted how black and brown greatness has not been celebrated or valued as much. That's what I was talking about. Those recent comments did seem to echo what Wilson said earlier in the month. It really is because you can be top-notch at what you are as a black woman, but yet maybe that's something that people don't want to see, Wilson said at the time. They don't see it as marketable, so it doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter what we all do as black women. We're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. Ahead of her game Friday, Clark was asked about the narratives around the attention she's gotten versus some of the vets that have been in this league for a long time. To be honest, I'm not really on social media. I don't read that, Clark said. This is my job. My job is to compete and play basketball every single day. I think the more attention we can get on every team around this league, that's only going to help me get better and better. My job is to just contribute, to show up and help this team get better. We're fighting for our first win. That's my main focus. Clark and the Fever earned their first win on Friday night, thanks to the rookies' clutch threes down the stretch in front of a star-studded crowd in Los Angeles Crypto.com arena against the Sparks. And I do believe that there is the game where they broke attendance records and had more at a game than the Lakers had during the season. So, that's the scoop on how race plays a factor in sports. I want to know what your take is with the Rex Chapman and the WNBA take, because it's noteworthy. Why are we watching the WNBA? Is it because of Caitlin Clark? Or is it because of those who paved the way for there to be a Caitlin Clark? I know these are issues that people do not like to talk about. As A.J. Wilson said, we like to sweep things like this under the rug. But at some point, if you keep sweeping things under the rug, that part of the rug, guess what? You're going to keep walking by, you're going to trip over it. And then you got to face it, face to face. The very same thing you swept under the rug. It's just a merit to what Rex Chapman said. Remember, he played in the era where, in college, Danny Manning and David Robinson. So was he the poster boy because of his skills, or was he the poster boy because of his skin color? If you let him tell it, he didn't deserve it. But that's him saying it, not me. And when you think about it, playing in the era where you have Danny Manning and David Robinson, maybe he deserved his accolades, but was he the best player? If he said he think he wasn't the best player, I can also say no, he was not the best player in college basketball. Anyway, it's so glad to be back in the zone, and I hope you have enjoyed being in the zone with me today. And I'll be back again. I'm not going to leave you hanging like this. So until the next time, always stay locked in the zone. Share this podcast with all your sports friends. Once again, I enjoyed being here. Hope you have enjoyed it as well. This podcast can be heard on multiple platforms as well. And I want to thank each and every one of you for making this podcast what it has been. So for that, I applaud each and every one of you. This is for you. Anyway, until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. Be blessed. I'm out. Talk to you later.